Hello and welcome to Europa Universalis 4. I am Lord Forwind, here with a quick guide on how to do good Austrian opening moves. Because some people I've seen struggling slightly to figure out how to start as Austria. There's currently a debate going, do you do the old way of getting a union over Bohemia or the new way of getting a union over Bohemia? So this is essentially to show you what I think are the best opening moves for Austria at the beginning of the game. First off, considering Austria starts with no military, you'll want to go through and raise pretty much a unit in every single province you own, with the exception, obviously, of that province over there. You probably want to take your fleet and either disband it or mothball it. I tend to disband it because Austria is not a naval power and pretty much never will be unless you conquer a large amount of the coast. Now, the first things to do are, there's a lot going to happen, but we should be able to start a war for the Union of Bohemia within, by roughly January 13th. So the old way of getting a union over Bohemia was a royal marriage. You get your dynasty on the throne, you break the royal marriage, and then you attack them. But this way you can get to do that without actually losing the stability, which works. We're going to use different methods to do that. So first off, you want to send alliance and a royal marriage to either Brandenburg or Saxony. It really helps if Brandenburg and Saxony have not rivaled each other, because otherwise this gets slightly harder. It's still doable. So we now have a alliance with Saxony. We do have a royal marriage with Brandenburg, so they should send us a alliance offer. You can also just royal marriage both of them, and they will tend to send you alliance offers, but I'm going to assume that one of them doesn't in this case, which can happen. Next, you ally the Palatinate, and once this diplomat returns, you ally to Trier. I don't know why I could not say that word there for a moment. And then the next one is you send an alliance to Mainz. These are all very important moves because this opening strategy relies on using this secure elector option. At least 5 electors are backing Austria to become emperor, have at least 100 per unit of Austria. Getting the electors to back you is easy. You start out with a good portion of them. The trick is getting them to 100 opinion, which is what we're working on. So once we hit December 13th, we can make our next moves. So it all takes place in about a month. So royal marriage to the Palatinate, which is nice. That puts them exactly at, well, in this case 105 because we got a consort, but usually it puts you at 100. Royal marriage with Brandenburg. Royal marriage with Saxony. And then this gets to the slightly controversial part of this start. You've got a couple different options. One, you can take the easy way out and just simply do bestow grace on Trier. That will get you enough relations with them. I'll put you over 100. And you can do that to both of them, so I'm going to do that. You also can send them a gift. Depending on who they are, you can do transfer trade power, offer military access, but it does delay the start slightly. And ideally you want to attack Bohemia roughly when all your troops are finished being trained in mainland Austria. Considering Austria is not manpower rich at this point, after you train the units, you want to try and raise as many mercenaries as possible. So you want to, raise the support of everything of all the states you got, then demand support. It does go slightly easier with this achievement if you, for example, need a diplomatic advisor, but it's not needed. The key point is you got to get at least one. No, it's not that great. You really want 2 fairly good generals. More shock, the better. You also, don't forget, have the ability to make your leader general. In this case, our leader is terrible. However, we can support 3, so we can re-roll. And what we got was worse than what we had. Other than the siege ability, which might actually be slightly better than what we have over here. So let's put that guy on. And then we wait until we can send another diplomat. 15th of January. I was one day late starting because when I was switching screens, I accidentally hit the play button and it moved to 12th of December. So then we simply do if you want to. Of course, you have other options. Just bestow Imperial Grace. Sorry, that was not working there for a moment. And once you've done that, you will have most of your electors favoring you. Mains here, for some reason, oh, I probably didn't send them a Imperial Grace. Anyway, they now have enough. We now have secure electors. You could, of course, during this time period have moved all your troops to the same location. Obviously, I did not. Unfortunately, Bohemia, I found, tends to ally the Palatinate, which makes this a little bit more difficult. But you pretty much want to attack as immediately as you can. Sorry, as soon as you can, not immediately. Otherwise, they'll tend to get another ally in the time it takes your troops to march together. It sounds stupid, but it's happened to me 3 or 4 times while planning out this guide. And then, of course, you've got your free diplomats. You can, of course, ally Hungary, usually a good move. Obviously, you want to do that before you start the war. Just gives you a slightly better chance of inheriting their thrones. The throne, initially, with your ruler, obviously doesn't always happen that way. And in order to win this war, you pretty much just need to take their capital and their second fort and probably beat them in a battle. Depends on how it goes. Ideally, you want a discipline or a morale advisor. I'm not going to fight the whole war. I'm just wanting to show you guys how it goes initially. You can, of course, direct them to a second province so you don't take attrition, but in this case, I'm not going to actually fight the war. I don't really care about that. So there is another option to fighting this war. You can do 2 types of war. First off, war goal, take enemy capital. Pretty simple. Second war goal is to peace out their allies and then go after Bohemia itself. So right now, we have slightly less troops than they do. But they are AIs and they are not as good at deploying troops. What you can do, and it does work fairly well, is you can rush their capital and their second fort. They tend not to be able to muster enough troops to fight you directly. Obviously, be careful when you're marching into the darkness, because sometimes their troops will march into the area. Helps if you have a good siege general. If you really want to risk things, you can get a Grant Generalship General. I don't tend to do it because it pretty much triggers by default an aristocratic coup. But it does make a difference to the war. I mean, look at the general I just got for Austria here. I mean, 6-2-2-1. It's really good. You pretty much have to take their capital, and then sometimes you have to win other wars, other battles, sorry. But if you siege down their capitals, and then you take Silesia's capital, and then you occupy land, that will usually net you just enough to enforce a union on them, which you need 60. Don't forget also at this point, you probably want to develop Tyrol over here, so you get more gold income. Ideally, you want to avoid falling into horrible amounts of debt during this war. It's going to be difficult. I think you'll end up with 1 to 2 loans, but you'll probably end up winning it. You can lose, so do be a bit careful, and if rolls go wrong, but usually you can take on Bohemia, their vassal, and maybe another 1 or 2 nations. The danger is if Bohemia allies either Brandenburg, Saxony, or someone like Poland, which they never do. So be careful of that. But once you do that, you'll have a union over Bohemia as Austria, probably by 1450 at the latest, give or take a year or so. Also, if you've gotten the royal marriage with Hungary, you may have gotten an alliance with them. Up to you. I recommend not taking the alliance because your next mission is the decline of Hungary. Obviously, you have to expand further. But once you get control of Bohemia, you also get this bonus, which will give you the Imperial Authority Growth modifier for 15 years of 10%. So it tends to make up for the 3, 4, or 5 you spent getting the electors to like you. Obviously, you could do it with loans, trade power, military access to get it higher, but Imperial Grace works, doesn't slow you down too much. It does a little bit, nothing too major though. Then you simply win the war, after which, during this war, you should be fabricating claims on Venice's lands, probably on the Pope's lands if you intend to stop the Shadow Kingdom, which I do recommend you do. But even if you don't stop the Shadow Kingdom, you should invade Venice, try and take over its coastal provinces, which will give you quite a bit more development and increase your income and in general your trade power. Really, the only thing to really avoid is if the Pope allies Aragon. You can beat Milan, you can beat any of the other small states. Really, the big danger is Milan. Milan's the biggest danger in Italy. Aragon's the biggest danger outside of it. That tends to happen. You also can fabricate claims at Ferrara if you were unlucky, which I wasn't, to get them in the war. It actually might have been worth risking down here in this game to siege out Ferrara and either vassalize them or just piece them out of the war, get military access so you can invade the Pope. For your next war, you want to try and take the three Venice provinces, or at least two of them, return a province to Milan. You also, if you're lucky enough, the Pope allies Venice, in which case you're golden. You take Romagna here. Then you pretty much wait to the truce to expire, and then you finish off the Pope with their remaining provinces. And Venice if you didn't take them all. And at that point, you can usually stop Shadow Kingdom with just Bohemia. If you're lucky enough to get the automatic union with Hungary, you're golden. If not, that's roughly when you start plotting to try and take over Hungary, especially if they lose a war versus the Ottomans or Poland. It's also important to note that with the new ideas, taking diplomatic ideas as Austria is really good, and if Poland gets the Union, which in this case they do, supporting air is really powerful as Austria. So might be worth, for example, for me to start supporting an heir, although until Kazimir dies, you don't tend to get a lot of chance to get a new heir. He lives for quite some time. So anyway, that's a brief little guide on opening moves for Austria, specifically how to get the Union over Bohemia without losing stability, without using a royal marriage, and to start the war within 3 months of the game starting, which is really fast, even for royal marriage stuff, because the interregnum has yet to end, which makes it useful. Probably also should focus military powers Austria, just saying, because this guy sucks. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully you guys, this will help you with your Austria starts. It's not the most in-depth one, but should give you a little bit of a better opening than most people seem to get. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.